for those trophies. And only a handful of players are going to be able to actually take them home. So it's certainly going to be an exciting weekend, as it's been a great day so far. And we've got plenty more Pokemon to play out for you here. Round number 5 going to be kicking things off. And we will find out what these players are bringing to the table soon enough.
Yeah, I think they have their headsets on, so we can start talking about this. Blaine is bringing the Reshiram and Charizard GX. Jason coming in with Pikachu and Zekrom GX, so we're going to have a nice kind of classic battle of this standard format so far. I think at this point this has become one of the matchups you would expect to see. Two of the biggest tag teams in the format, two of the most popular tag teams we've seen. And I've actually wondered heading into this event how many players made choices based on kind of a comfort pick, right? You played a deck before the rotation and then it switches over to the new format and you're like, oh, can I still play this deck? What do I have to do to make it work with these new cards? And maybe a lot of players are like, oh, I liked Pikachu and Zekrom before. It still works. I got to change out some cards, but it's still the same deck. Why not just play it again? I don't know.
Valid point.
I don't know how many players go through that thought process or just test and go, nope, this is the best deck now.
I'm sure that a lot of the players, if they thought that Pikachu and Zekrom was the best deck prior to the rotation, there would have to be a lot of disruption happening to make it not the best deck now, post-rotation. So certainly I think a lot of them just will still value that consistency very highly, and the ability to, of course, power up Tag Bolt GX with full Blitz very quickly, take multiple knockouts with that Tag Bolt GX. Pikachu and Zekrom just races very effectively. And at the North American International Championships, we expected to see a lot more Reshiram and Charizard, but it seemed like people swapped onto Pikachu and Zekrom expecting there to be a lot of Reshiram and Charizard. And we sort of saw that rock, paper, scissors effect happening here.
Kind of, yeah. It was a weird metagame at the North American International Championships. But yeah, once again, the Pikachu and Zekrom decks are here in full force. And I think there's been an interesting shift in how the deck plays. I think in the past you would see, like you said, that full Blitz. You put all the energy on your Pikachu and Zekrom. You go for the big Tag Bolt GX, try to knock out multiple things. But with how popular Pikachu and Zekrom is in this new format, a lot of people are adding that Mew to their deck with that bench barrier ability and blocking the bench damage from Tag Bolt. So we see a lot of players now use their full Blitz and power up their Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX. It has a GX attack that it can't knock out multiple Pokemon, but it can get to bigger numbers of damage. And it allows you to get one-hit knockouts on things like Reshiram and Charizard GX once you have 1 or 2 Electro powers. So I wonder if that's going to come up in this matchup. Could see the double Raichu come in and use that GX attack. It's a little bit different than how the deck played out before, but it gives you more just straightforward punching power where you can knock out their active.
Yeah, certainly. Before, Zapdos was the most popular pairing for Pikachu and Zekrom GX, but this looks to be a very light Zapdos line. We've got just a single Zapdos in the deck here. Also a copy of that Mewtwo and Mew GX, a new tag team Pokemon coming from the Unified Minds expansion, which was just released very recently. And that can go ahead and use the attacks of any Pokemon in the discard. So even if you've lost your Raichu and Alolan Raichu very early, weren't able to take advantage of it, Mewtwo and Mew GX is another way to do that.
Yeah, and Cora, there's been a lot of debate about how this matchup plays out, as we do see prize cards there. Those will be Blaine's prize cards, and we see Jason's. Doesn't look like anything super important. There's been a debate. Which deck is favored in this matchup? We've had players saying some pretty, I don't know, outlandish statements saying that...
I've heard 90-10.
Yeah, which, let's set the record straight. That just doesn't really exist in Pokemon. Like, you're not going to win 90% of your games against any reasonable matchup. But yeah, a lot of people think, oh, Reshiram and Charizard is a heavy favorite. It's going to win 80% of its games in this matchup. And other people think, well, I think Pikachu and Zekrom wins 80% of the games in this matchup. And, well, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but we'll at least get to see it play out here.
So what you're saying is we're going to settle the argument for once and for all right here, right now.
This one match will decide it all.
What is the win rate?
Right, so,
certainly, by the end of this weekend, we might have a better idea of it.
Yeah, so we see one of the big cards that makes this Pikachu and Zekrom deck so great. the electromagnetic radar. You get to discard 2 cards from your hand and then go search for 2 lightning Pokemon GX and put them into your hand. So you can get that Pikachu and Zekrom, the Zeraora GX, or even the Dedenne GX. And Jason actually starting off with Pokemon Communication and finding the card that is hardest to find now that we don't have Nest Ball and Ultra Ball, Tapu Koko Prism Star, and can use that Dance of the Ancients ability. This is your main source of energy acceleration at the beginning of the game and makes it possible to use that full blitz attack pretty early in the game. So this is a huge start for Jason.
Pretty early, looking like it's going to be turn 2 for Jason.
Yeah.
And only because he's limited by not being able to attack on turn 1.
Yeah, he's pretty close to a turn 1 full blitz. He would have needed a switching card, but yeah, as you said, he's going first, can't attack, but this is an excellent start for Jason. If you're Blaine, you're probably like, oh boy, that's a lot
Scary.
coming at me. His turn's probably going to be a lot less explosive, but that is just how this Reshiram and Charizard deck goes. That's based around Green's Exploration. Although he does start with the Energy Spinner, which has a unique effect. If you go second and it's your first turn, it lets you search for 3 basic energy and put it into your hand. That's not bad.
It's an effect that previously would have to have off a supporter card. So to have it on an item and leave you open to maybe playing a welder on the same turn, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, I think a lot of these decks are playing it just for the first effect where you get to search for a basic energy. Since you have Green's Exploration, you can go get it, which is basically searching for an energy card. But hey, every once in a while you go second, you play it on your first turn, and now you got 3 energy in your hand, which is pretty good. And he's going to pair it with that Giant Hearth, which allows him to discard a card and search for 2 more fire energy, put it in his hand. So his hand is just loaded with fire energy.
Yeah, very important to have that engine continuously going in this deck. It requires so much energy that...
That's like 5 already.
Yeah, any way to search it out very early on is going to be necessary.
And he's going to thin out his deck so he can find the right supporter card off of this Pokegear. Look at the top 7 cards, put a supporter card from those into your hand, and he's got a choice between Welder and Green's Exploration.
Looks like he's favoring the greens here.
Hey, you are correct.
I'm going to go ahead and just use it at the same time.
Yeah, it is very tempting to grab the Welder off of that, right? You can Welder, attach a couple energy, draw 3 cards, set yourself up for a big attack next turn, but there is some risk involved. Your opponent could technically knock you out next turn with enough Electro Powers, so looks like Blaine going to play a little more defensively, say, all right, I'm going to grab some trainer cards instead.
You don't want to be left without a trainer card for the following turn. Welder potentially can just draw you into more energy that you can't make use of.
Yeah, I was expecting him to grab a Cherish Ball so we could find another Reshiram and Charizard GX, but it looks like he's just taking the risk, saying, you know what?
If you have it, you have it.
You need a lot of Electro Powers here. But Jason has that Thunder Mountain Prism Star. He's now got the 2nd energy on Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX. If he can get a couple energy switches or a tag switch, he could just go ahead with 1 Electro Power. He can use Raichu and Alolan Raichu's GX attack and just win the game this turn. I think it's a big risk by Blaine, and we'll see if Jason punishes him and takes a quick game 1.
And it looks like he does find the Electro Power as well as has a Falconer, which he can use to pick up.
Yeah, if he's got a tag switch, I think that's game over. Oh, he's even got 2 Electro Power in hand. He could just tag Bolt GX for the game.
This is the risk that Blaine took by not going for a 2nd copy of Reshiram and Charizard
2,
GX. But
3 Electro Power, and that's it. Tag Bolt GX, and Jason takes game 1 in just 2 turns.
I mean, that was quite the setup from Jason, for sure.
Not bad.
Blaine having to go second there, even though he was able to make use of his energy spinner. He didn't have the time to set up additional Pokemon or energy onto the board to actually be able to attack. So, I mean, you can start to understand why there are players who are in both camps for this matchup who say that it's very Pikachu and Zekrom favored or very Reshiram and Charizard favored. But in that game, it looked like Pikachu and Zekrom was just the faster deck.
Yeah, and I think one of the criticisms of the Green's Exploration build of Reshiram and Charizard is sometimes it's just a little slow. when you have to take your turn to use your supporter card on Green's Exploration and search for 2 trainer cards, sometimes it just feels like I'm a little behind, right? You want to be playing a welder as often as possible, getting extra energy in play. The consistency of being able to search out those trainer cards you need, finding exactly what you need on the turns you need them is nice, but on those early turns when you're forced to play Green's Exploration, and it feels like you could fall behind sometimes.
Yeah.
That may have been a situation there where Blaine was trying to set up for later turns. I think if everything goes his way, typically he's going to win. There's just so much healing in this deck. There's a lot of ways for it to gain an advantage. It's typically going to favor Reshiram and Charizard, but when you have those early bursts like we just saw, triple Electro Power, and knock out your Reshiram and Charizard, that's not a good feeling.
The stars do sort of have to align to have the perfect cards. So triple Electro Power with Energy Switch, Tapu Koko, Prism Stars, Dance of the Ancients on turn 1. It doesn't always end up that way for the Pikachu and Zekrom GX, and we are going to be seeing Blaine going first this game.
2 Reshiram and Charizard GX prized for Blaine in game number 2. He's only got 3 in his deck. He's going to be working with 1 for the majority of the game. That's not good news.
And these Volcanions are decent attackers, but High Heat Blast is...
Pretty sure he just attached and passed. That's not a great start either.
High Heat Blast is going to be hard-pressed to take knockouts on Pikachu and Zekrom GX.
Yes. All right, and now we see Jason going first, starting off with that Pikachu and Zekrom GX. Now it is possible to full blitz on the first turn. He actually Volkners for the Thunder Mountain Prism Star. That's not allowed. But he can grab the Stadium Nav, which lets you flip 2 coins, and for each heads you can search for a Stadium card. So as long as he doesn't get very unlucky here, he can search for that Thunder Mountain Prism Star, and with Tapu Koko Prism Star and enough things here, he could get a turn him on full blitz, but he actually just passed, so never mind.
Just sent it right back over to Blaine. Saw that Blaine had a rather slow first turn of his own. Maybe doesn't feel like he needs to really push to go very fast here. And obviously Jason is unaware that Blaine has 2 of his 3 Reshiram and Charizards prized. But for Blaine, now having taken his first search through the deck, he's going to be painfully aware of that fact.
Yeah, and he also doesn't have any supporters to play, so that is even more painful. But yeah, just think of how much different the game looked. Oh, here's a big Stadium Nav here. We see Tails on the first flip,
and
Tails on the second. That could be the difference between a turn 2 full blitz and passing his second turn. So now he just has to Cynthia and hope to draw it. That was a big double Tails. Anybody who's ever played Timer Ball can have flashbacks right there.
Oh, it hurts.
Just always double Tails,
I mean, 25% of the time, you come out of that one pretty sad.
Yeah. So perhaps a game-changing moment here for Blaine. The game was probably over if Jason got that Thunder Mountain Prism Star, got a full blitz turn 2, knocked out the Volcanion. Blaine would have had 1 turn to top deck. So let's see if he can draw into the Thunder Mountain here.
He does find the Electromagnetic Radar, which can fetch to Dene GX. He can try to Dede change.
I think he's going to go for it. I think Jason understands my opponent has done nothing. Every extra turn I give him gives him 1 more shot to draw out of this bad situation. So I need to pounce while I can, try to get this knockout. And maybe I don't get it, and whatever. But if I do hit Thunder Mountain, it's almost game over. And he does have to throw away 2 Electro Power, though. So as the game progresses, if he misses here, this could be bad. But he's still pretty heavily favored in this game. His opponent just doesn't have anything yet, but this is what Blaine needed to stay in the game. Jason's going to miss this attack and have to pass the turn.
And he is going to just retreat into Zero Aura GX.
And Blaine draws a Fire Energy. We do see an interesting tech card there, the Shrine of Punishment. It's actually specifically for this matchup. Reshiram and Charizard GX's Flare Strike does 230 damage, which is 10 short of knocking out Pikachu and Zekrom GX. But when you have Shrine of Punishment, it looks like it doesn't make sense in your deck, right? You're running GXs. But with Shrine of Punishment, you can do the extra 10 between turns and get essentially a one-hit knockout on Pikachu and Zekrom GX. He's going to play it here while he's got no GX in play and be like, oh, all right, might as well just do it right.
It's the difference between being able to take 2 knockouts over 2 turns or 1 knockout over 2 turns.
Yeah. And all right, Blaine got a turn off on the last turn. He got a free turn, but that's not going to happen again. Jason will be able to full blitz on his 3rd turn and threaten Blaine, who just has nothing right now. No way to get another basic down. Hasn't found any supporter cards to play this game. This has been an ugly, well, game 1 and game 2 for him so far.
And especially for a player named Blaine who's piloting a fire deck. The parallels are uncanny. But just not coming through for him this time. He's going to Dead-A change again.
Yeah, Jason just burning through his deck like clockwork, and you can see why. Pikachu and Zekrom is one of the top decks in the standard format. It just uses all these different support cards beautifully. And we do see the full blitz. It's going to take the Shrine of Punishment damage between turns, but gets to grab 3 lightning energy from his deck, attach them to one of his Pokemon, and it might not even matter where this goes. He's going to go on to a second Pikachu and Zekrom GX, but Blaine needs to top deck right here. He's out of basic Pokemon and he needs to find something. And he drew a mixed herbs, and that, unfortunately, is it. 2 quick games for Jason, and he will advance to 5-0 here at the World Championships, just 1 win away from advancing straight to day 2.
Blaine is going to be walking away from this one thinking, what in the world happened?
Yeah.
Game number 1 was a calculated risk. He knew that if there were a number of Electro Powers available, that he was going to get knocked out, and he didn't have anything to back up his active Reshiram and Charizard, but he felt like that was a risk he was willing to take. Game number 2, it was just